Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Shana Tova, everyone. It is a great joy to see all of you together. Would that we could be physically together, but it's still a joy to be virtually together. I'm Rabbi Robin Spar, as most of you know. I'm extremely delighted to have with me my colleague, Rabbi Daniel Betzel, who is my partner throughout these high holiday services. You should make sure that you've equipped yourself with a machzor, either in actual physical form, or perhaps you've downloaded a Kindle version, or Spencer has put a link to the flip book and he'll put it up a couple of times early in the service for those who might have just come on. It'll be in the chat. When you go there, make sure that you select the Yom Kippur Mishkan HaNefesh if you want to be on the same page as the rest of us. Just a couple of words about Zoom. Please ensure that you know how to turn your microphone and video on and off. You're certainly welcome to keep your mics and videos off all of the time if you wish, or to keep your video on, but do keep your mics off until we call upon you to open them. There will be opportunities to open your mic for certain things. You will notice at the top right, there's a little button that says view with a little grid next to it. You can choose your view. So you can either see gallery, which looks like Hollywood Squares or something like that. For those of you who are, more than 40 years old, you might remember Hollywood Squares. And the other choices is a different view where you can see the speaker, and that way whoever's mic is open and is making the most noise will be popped up onto your screen, which usually will be me or Rabbi Betzel, but sometimes might be somebody who's unmuted, so you never can tell who will pop up. If you need any technical help during the service, of course, you can just shoot a message to Spencer in the chat and he'll be happy to assist you as much as he is able to. On the off chance that Zoom fails, we hope it will not, you can try, sign out and sign back in, see if that works. If you can't get back in, you might try and visit us on the YouTube channel if Zoom completely fails. And if we can't get to you streamed in some way, then each of you hopefully is equipped with access to the wonderful machzor, as Karen and Vivian noted before the service. It is certainly chock-a-block with meaningful and inspiring readings that would help you to make the most of this evening and day. And now I invite Dan to lead us, Rabbi Betzel to lead us on page 2, I believe.
On every other day of the year, a talit is worn only before sunset. But tonight, Kol Nidrei is different. As we enter the space of the Day of Atonement, a day on which we are to imagine that our mortality is omnipresent and our human frailty at hand, we are invited to wrap ourselves in the talit, seeking the comfort of tradition of our people and to know that we are not alone. Wrapped up in these swaddling blankets of Jewish tradition, we can find security and faith, knowing that we are in the same spiritual space as our ancestors, even dressed a bit like them. We realize that we are connected to them by faith and destiny. And you shall make fringes on the corners of your garments, and you shall leave the corners of your fields for the poor. Behold, I clothe myself tonight in this four-cornered talit whose fringes recall my sacred obligations. Let me open my field of vision to recognize the poor. Let me open the clenched fist of my selfishness and extend my hand to the hungry. Let me open the darkest corners of my heart to the light of truth. So please join me on page 2 and take your talit. Say the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahitatef b'tzitzit. Hold over my head like a chuppah. I wrap myself in the talit and I say Shana Tova. I'd like to invite Shirley Papp to lead us in the 2 candle blessings found on page 9.
Please unmute, Shirley. You're still muted. Shirley, you're still muted. There you go.
Okay, good.
But now we can't see you anymore. Ah, there we are. Thank you.
There we go. Baruch atah Adonai notei abotochenu chaye olam. You are blessed, eternal one, who places within us life everlasting. The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us, guided by the flame of conscience. On the sacred night, we search for truth. Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love. We light the flame of healing and forgiveness. On this atonement night, we give thanks for love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time.
Thank you. Page 6. What an extraordinary gift it is. What a blessing. What a miracle to have been raised by imperfect parents who did their very best to share our life with a partner no more flawed than we are, and to count as a friend one who understands and accepts us most of the time. How brave, how hard it is to be good enough in our ties to one another, to give even when we're exhausted, to love faithfully, to receive with grace the love imperfectly offered to us. Can this night set us free from the tyranny of expectations? Can this night release us from fantasies impossible to fulfill? We resolve this night to embrace the practice of forgiveness, to forgive others who fail to be all we hoped they would be, and to forgive ourselves when we fall short of what others hoped we would be. We declare this night that we will cherish goodness wherever it is found and open ourselves to the gifts that are before us. Page 14. I'm going to read this responsively with Evan Torlin. Evan, are you there? So page 14. Yom Kippur, the Jewish people's festival of the soul, and Kol Nidrei is its sacred portal, a night of deep emotions, a night, as the psalmist wrote, to rejoice with trembling.
We rejoice at the sound of Kol Nidrei, rhythmic words of release from vows, oaths, and promises to God we failed to keep.
We tremble at the melody, music of spiritual amazement. It fills us with awe as we stand before God and Torah.
We rejoice that we stand together, strengthened by community in this hour of shared weakness and humility.
We tremble, for tonight we confess our flaws, admit our imperfection, and acknowledge a power far beyond our understanding.
We rejoice that we commit ourselves to great endeavors because we feel so deeply and think so nobly.
We tremble, for we find that our ideals are far greater than our ability. Our promises surpass our might.
We rejoice in the freedom that is Kol Nidrei's true gift, the freedom to begin a new year without fear of failure, to aspire to be God's image in the world.
We tremble because we are mortal. We rejoice in our gratitude for life.
We rejoice with trembling, enter Kol Nidrei to face our humanity.
Please rise in body or spirit. Page 18.
Ordinarily, we would stand before the open ark in person. I believe Spencer's going to share the open ark with us in a moment. Typically, we sing this prayer, this petitionary prayer, 3 times. Tonight, we will sing it once as a vocal solo. I will sing alone for all of you. The second time, we will read together in English, led by Rabbi Betzel. And then the last time, I invite everyone to sing together. Spencer, do you have that image, please? Okay, we will close our eyes and pretend we are in front of the ark. Kol Nidrei ve'esarei ve'charamei ve'kinusei ve'chinuyei ve'kinusei Shavuot. Indana Udhishtebana Udhacharima V'dasarna nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim Kol hon ichad achat navahon. Kol hon yehon sharon. Shavikin, shavitin, betelin umevutalin, lasharirin, velakayamin, nitrana, nidrei, versarana laesare. Shivuatana, Shavuot.
Please join with me at the bottom of the page in English, page 18. All vows, resolves, and commitments, vows of abstinence and terms of obligation, sworn promises and oaths of dedication, that we promise and swear to God and take upon ourselves from this day of atonement until next day of atonement, may it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgiven, abolished and undone. They are not valid and they are not binding. Our vows shall not be vows, our resolves shall not be resolves, and our oaths, they shall not be oaths.
Let us sing together. Kol nidrei ve'esarei ve'charamei ve'kinuyei ve'kinusei ve'kinuyei u'shevuot u'shevuot din darna u'dehish tevana u'dehacharina v'dasarna nafshetana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu etova Kol ichad achat navahon, kol hon yehon sharon, shavikin, shavitin, betelin umevutalin, lasharirin, velakayamin, nitrana, lanidrei, ve'esarana laesarei, u'shivuatana, Shavuot.
Page 20. All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel, and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error.
Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha.
Page 22.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 28.
Each time we come to Shema during these high holidays, we'll take a moment to deeply engage with the meaning of the words. After we chant Shema, please take a few moments to consider the meditations of your heart or the additional texts on pages 28 and 29. And only after you feel your personal meditation is complete, please be seated or be prepared for the next part of our service. Please remain standing or risen in body or spirit as we begin Shema. And I would remind you too that this is the one day of the year that we actually pronounce Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed out loud, B'kol Ram, in a loud voice. Let us take a moment to be ready for Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 31. With all your strength. Our sages teach, love God with all your strength. This means show love with your wealth, put your resources toward good purposes, serve the Most High with everything you possess. Those who reject all material possessions, who spurn comfort and wealth, who deny the body, they lose their ability to appreciate life's value. Poverty and suffering do not cultivate the love of God. Rather, learn to love life, live fully, cherish the world, and enjoy its treasures. Then you will gain a full measure of love. Then will your heart expand with gratitude, and only then will you give with a joyful heart. So the day of liberation, Mi Chamocha, the parting of the Red Sea. As the Jews make their way through the parted sea, it closes in behind them, leaving them to walk forward. They walk into the future. They may look back at the sea for a last glance at where they have come from, but they cannot go back, and nor can we. The sea is time, and they are walking through time, past, present, and future. This year, this past year, everyone has made mistakes, you, me, and the rest of the world, and we cannot change the mistakes we have made. We may sit here thinking back at what has taken place and wishing it never happened or happened differently, but we cannot go back. Just keep moving forward, learning, growing, trusting, moving on. Mi Chamocha is life. We must not forget the past, the parting of the Red Sea. We must not stay in the past, a sea that's about to collapse back in. We must move on, forward into a new land and start anew. For this year, a year full of missed chances, we must use the past to make a better future. We must journey through the passage into forgiveness onto a new blank page. For this year, my wishes for everyone is to make it through the sea, not to stay behind to drown in the past, but move on and create our own future, our own destiny. I want us all to live the way of Mi Chamocha. Page 40.
We sing this Mi Chamocha in that same metrical tune that we know for that announces the high holidays. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nara tehilot osef eleh. Malchutcha ra'uvanecha, v'kayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze'eli anu v'yamru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'nemar ki fadad Adonai et Yaakov u'ga'alo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
So entrances to holiness are everywhere. God, where shall I find you? High and hidden is your place. But where shall I not find you? Your presence fills all space. Where do you meet the divine? Where or who or what are your entrances into the Holy of Holies? The silent Amidah can be found on pages 46 to 81.
Yihiyu leratzon imrei fi. Yihiyu leratzon imrei fi. Ve'hegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Yihiyu leratzon imrei fi. Yihiyu leratzon imrei fi. Ve'hegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Adonai tzuri ve'goali.
We prepare now to state our public confession. It calls upon us to be open and vulnerable. This is challenging spiritual work. It's so powerful that we do it in community, surrounded by others, stating it in the plural. This prayer calls us to humility, to acknowledge our transgressions, to hold our talit in our hands as we gently beat our breasts and hold ourselves and our community accountable for all we have done wrong. But this prayer also acknowledges the awesome power we have, you and I, to transform our lives, to stop causing those around us suffering and grief and heartache, and to turn our lives anew, to be agents of goodness and kindness and righteousness, to lovingly share of ourselves, our souls, our generosity, and our gratitude. The Vidui is the first step on a path toward living as the people we are called to be agents of wholeness and holiness in our world. Page 82.
In the synagogue I grew up in, people used to pound their chest as they said each one of these. Instead, I invite you to tap your heart. Think about the tapping on your chest, sort of like knocking on a door, asking your heart to open, knocking and inviting openness and thoughtfulness and vulnerability. We sing these as an echo. Rabbi Betzel and all of you together will be my echo. You can certainly unmute yourself if you like, and we can join in holy cacophony, or you can keep your mics muted as you prefer. Ay, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Ibarnu Dofi. Ay, 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 Evinu, Behirshanu, Adnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Shaker. Ay, 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 Ya'at Nura, Izavnu, Latznu,
Latznu,
Maradnu,
Maradnu,
Yatznu,
Yatznu,
Barnu,
Saranu,
Avenu,
Avinu,
Hashanu,
Ashanu,
Nararnu,
Saranu,
Ishinu Oref,
Ishinu,
Ay, 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 Rashanu,
Rashanu,
Adnu,
Echanu,
Yavnu,
Yavnu,
Ta'inu,
Ta'idu,
Titanu, ay,
Titanu,
ay, 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 ay. On page 86, we continue. We meditate on our many personal and collective missteps as we read responsively. Again, I invite you to unmute. We'll be reading just a single line in Hebrew for each of these and the rest in English. I promise it will make more sense by the time we get to the third or fourth one. It seems a little confusing at the beginning. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
Al chet shechetanu lefenecha, by hardening our hearts and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
Al chet shechetanu lefenecha, by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, by insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
Al chet shechetanu lefenecha, through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. We continue on page 88.
Al chet shechetanu lefenecha, openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through sexual immorality and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink.
Al chet shechetanu lefenecha, by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior.
Page 90. Al chet shechetanu lefenecha, by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam Eloah selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. In addition to these failures, we read responsively on page 91.
Failures of love. We sin against you when we hurt one another. For our failures of love, Adonai, we seek forgiveness.
for exploiting another for our own pleasure, and for the wounds we cause through betrayal and deception,
for withholding affection from those we claim to love, and for using love to control our spouses and partners, our children and parents,
for abandoning friends and siblings whose love has sustained us, and for neglecting those who love us when they need us most,
for harboring in our relationships mistrust, boredom, and disloyalty, and for rejecting our partner's efforts at repair and renewal,
for possessiveness, jealousy, and avarice, and for lashing out in anger at those who are closest to us. Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these wrongs, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. I invite you to please re-mute so that you can listen with all of your attention to these words of Torah from Rabbi Betzel.
Well, that last reading is always so powerful for me. It just seems to get me. So, Shana Tova. So much of our liturgy around Yom Kippur deals with temple rituals and sacrifices. And the biblical description of Yom Kippur involves a series of sacrifices and rituals designed to remove sin from the people. Like, for example, one goat was thought to bear the sins of all the Israelites and was sent off into the wilderness where it was consumed by Azazel, a mysterious force. Azazel consumed the goat and the sins that it carried. In essence, this goat was blamed, for all the misdeeds of the people. This is where, of course, we get the term scapegoat in English. But I find this one of the more difficult topics in the Torah for me. The Hebrew word for sacrifice is korban, and the root or the shoresh is kuf resh vet, karov, which means close, and comes from the verb lehekarev, to bring close. So on this metaphysical level, we can view the entire sacrificial system as one that was designed to bring us closer to God and to each other. However, there's still this major disconnect for me. We can certainly find other ways to connect and to bring the divine close to us. However, I believe that in the midst of this apparent difficulty, we can find many levels of meaning for our lives today. If you don't like the idea of sacrifices, you're in pretty good company. Jeremiah, like most of our prophets, is very critical of sacrifices. In Jeremiah 7:22-23, we read, "Thus said the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I freed your fathers from the land of Egypt, and I didn't speak with them or command them concerning burnt offerings or sacrifice, but this is what I commanded them. Do my bidding, love your neighbor, seek peace, that I may be your God and you may be my people." The text says, "Ki lo dibarti ve'lo tzivitem," I did not speak with them or command them concerning offerings and sacrifices. But wait a minute, then why does so much of the Torah and so much of our high holiday liturgy deal with sacrifices? I want to dive a little bit deeper into this concept that we call in English sacrifice and Plummett's meetings. And if we do, I think we will discover that the entire sacrificial system is simply a means to something greater. It's not an end in itself. So what is this something greater that I believe our sacrificial system points toward? So the sacrificial system described in the Torah must not be seen as some kind of a bribe in which we make a generous sacrifice to God in the hopes he will overlook our crimes and misdemeanors. This would be to view the sacrificial system as an end in itself. For example, when we think of sacrifice as something done to appease an angry God, which is so often the script of many Hollywood B movies. The volcano god is angry, it's erupting hot lava and threatening to destroy the island, and the angry god is demanding some sort of sacrifice to appease the anger. But this is in direct opposition to the central tenet of Judaism, and in direct contrast to the other religions at the time, because for us, we know that the central tenet of Judaism is contained in the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Rabbi Sachs explains that the sacrificial system must be seen in the context of love and not fear and anger. This insight opened up for me a very powerful way to look at the entire sacrificial system that I want to explain. The Torah sacrificial system is built on giving and community. Ancient Israel was a theocracy, and the sacrifices were used in great part to support the Levites and the priests and the entire temple governmental structure. They were in many ways like paying taxes today. Moreover, we all know that we love what we are willing to make, in English we say, a sacrifice for. To love is to want to bring an offering to the beloved. To love is to give. To love is to thank. So sacrifice is such an inadequate translation of the Hebrew word korban. If I love a person or an activity or a cause, and I do something for it or for you, it's not a sacrifice. It's not a zero-sum game. By offering you my korban, my gift, my so-called sacrifice, I'm creating something bigger than the two of us. I'm creating a bond between us. I'm supporting you and telling you that I care for you. In this context, sacrifice becomes like the super glue that holds the people and community together. Anyone who is a parent or has been in love with someone or some worthy cause understands this at an intuitive level. I can remember 36 years ago when we had our first child, our lives changed dramatically. We were no longer free to come and go as we once did. Extra money was invested for her college or buying things that she needed. At no time did I feel like I was losing something. These so-called sacrifices did not feel like I was giving something up. Actually, it felt quite the opposite. I was building something much greater than the sum of what I was giving up. One of my favorite Israeli singers is Boaz Sharbi from about 25 years ago, but he wrote a very powerful song called Letet, to give. And I think this song, Letet, to give, is a very helpful way to think about the entire idea of korbanot, or sacrifices. The song opens up, Letet et haneshama ve'et halev, to give the soul and the heart, Letet kshe'ata ohev, to give because you love. And here's the concept I find so interesting. V'ech motzim et hahavdel bein lekachet ve'lekabel. How do you find the difference, or is there a distinction between giving and receiving? When you give, you discover the secrets of love, and to see in the midst of the fall that there's always room for forgiveness. It's always possible to start again. Then you will know what it means to give, and then you will know that there is no difference between giving and receiving. So Sharbi teaches us that it's just not possible on this higher level of consciousness to distinguish the difference between lekachet and lekabel, between giving and receiving. So it's through sacrifice, through giving of ourselves, of our time, of our energy, that we receive. We build communities and relationships. We give and receive, lekachet, lekabel. Rambam Nachmanides explains that the Korban ceremony is a means of symbolically offering up ourselves to God. Before some korbanot are offered, a ritual smicha, or laying on the hands on the animal's head, is performed. By laying hands on the animal's head, the priest is symbolically transferring himself onto or into the animal. So in essence, our offerings are the gifts that we give to others and the communities for the purpose of bringing us closer together. So how do we put all this together? Sacrifice, or korbanot, are the gifts we give to create bonds of love and community. Giving sacrifices brings us closer to those we love and those causes and endeavors that are dear to us. In so doing, we experience higher sense of personal consciousness. And when you give your gifts with awareness, it brings you closer to the object of your sacrifice. As Boaz Sharbi sings, Od nilmad letet letet. Yes, someday you will learn to give and to give. So as we begin to embark on a new year together, what causes, people, ideas, or organizations do you want to bring closer to yourself? Lehei karev, karov, korban, to bring nearer. And what korban, so inadequately translated into English as sacrifices, can you give to make that dream a reality? May you each have a year filled with lekachet and lekabel, a sweet year filled with much giving and receiving. Gemar Chatima Tova.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi Batzel. What a beautiful teaching and offering and way to bring all of us closer to you and to one another in this learning. Thank you so much. We continue in our service on page 93. You know, we spend a lot of Yom Kippur sort of, hopefully gently beating ourselves up. But, you know, we have to remember too that we are not just one thing or the other. There is the yin and yang that each of us possess. We are both things that are lovely and things that are not so lovely. We are in possession of the Yetzer HaTov, the urge to do good, and the Yetzer Hara, the urge to do evil. And we must not forget to forgive ourselves and to embrace also the ways in which we bring goodness and light into the world. Let us read this responsively on page 93. God, our creator and guide, let us speak now of the healing acts by which we bring you into the world. For the act of healing we have done openly or anonymously, and for the act of repair we have done without personal gain.
The act of healing we have done by seeking forgiveness, and for the act of repair we have done by forgiving others.
For the act of healing we have done through righteous giving, and for the act of repair we have done by opening our hearts.
For the act of healing we have done by comforting the mourner and visiting the sick, and for the act of repair we have done by pursuing justice and human rights, fairness and civility.
For the act of healing we have done by making peace between one person and another, and for the act of repair we have done by protecting nature and all of its creatures.
For the act of healing we have done by teaching our children the ways of peace, and for the act of repair we have done by teaching our children the ways of Torah.
For the act of healing we have done by honoring elders and loving the stranger, and for the act of repair we have done in response to your commandment, choose life and blessing.
And all these bring nearer the day when you shall be one and your name shall be one. Page 98.
We pause for just a moment of soul examination. We ask that our sincere petitions be heard and answered with the words of Shema Kolenu. Take just a moment for your own personal petitions before we sing Shema Kolenu. Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachim aleinu, v'kabel berachamim uvratzon, et tefilotenu. Hashivenu Adonai lecha v'nashuva Chadish yameinu kekedem Hashivenu Adonai lecha v'nashuva Chadish yameinu kekedem.
They say there was a time when the world was idyllic, and some believe that it will come again, when the riches of the earth produced bountiful crops and no one was hungry or starved. And that time is possible now, even if it never happened before. that all people would live in peace with their neighbors, enjoying life and letting others do the same. Noting skin color, gender identity, and sexual orientation as much as eye color. And that time may yet be possible if all people turn to each other as to God and choose life for themselves and for all mankind. Page 105.
We come now to these words spoken by Moses when he was petitioning God for something. He would invoke these holy names of God, these 13 attributes, the words of Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun. Let us sing them together. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Adonai, 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 El Rachum V'Chanun, Adonai, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed, Ve'emet Adonai, Notzer chesed lelafim, nosei avon v'fesha, v'chata'ah v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Adonai, 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 El Rachum V'Chanun, Adonai, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed, Ve'emet Adonai, Notzer chesed lelafim, nosei avon v'fesha, v'chata'ah v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Adonai, 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 El Rachum V'Chanun, Adonai.
Page 112. Avinu Malkeinu, ha'er lanu et derech hayinu. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? Avinu Malkeinu, chaynenu ve'enenu, chazkenu ve'amtenu, ki v'cha v'imcha hatishvot. Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious to us, answer us, empower us, and give us courage, for the answers are both in you and with you. I invite you to please rise in body or spirit before the open ark for Avinu Malkeinu, page 114.
Spencer, may we have the open ark? Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu. aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Kotzar, Umastin, Me aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu, Besefer Chaim Tovim, Avinu Malkeinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kadesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'Hanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'Hanenu, Ki ein banu masim. Seimanu, Tzedaka v'Chesed. Seimanu, Tzedaka v'Chesed, V'Hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu v'Anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'Anenu, Ki ein banu masim.
Page 120 at the bottom. We stand as one on this night of remembrance, united in grief, united in loss, united in the power of a promise. God has made us, God will sustain us. We give praise to this life and rise up together to renew our strength. Page 122.
If you have names that you would share in memory before the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, we invite you to please unmute and recite your loved one's name aloud at this time.
Russell Miller, John Murphy,
Helen Smith, Thaddeus Smith, Lola Miller,
Catherine Katopoulos,
Eileen Harvest,
Pauline Rand, Simon Rand,
Paula,
Jim Lipshires, Kenneth Lipshires, Hannah and Matt Lipshires, Dora and Louis Weiner, Gail Schlosser, Stephen Pierce, Irving Jacobs, Phyllis Croce.
Charlotte and Richard Stone,
Max Calvin,
Samuel Lesberg, Selma Lesberg, Helen Knight, Barney Lesberg, Molly Lesberg, Elizabeth Knight, and Abe Knight.
George Pizer, Alice Pizer, Janice Kahn, Lawrence Bellin, Evelyn Hornstein, Abner Hornstein.
Maurice Miner,
Eleanor and Harry Moore. Jennifer Hayburn, Erwin and Miriam Baskin, Rebecca Navid.
Are there any others?
Myrna Kay.
Thank you. So,
Molly Kalfas, Lily Isaacs.
thank you. So please join in the reading of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 122. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba. Ve'alma divra chirute, ve'amlich malchute. V'chayichon, v'yomechon, v'chei dekol bet Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kariv, v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba mevarach, ve'am almei almea. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitroman, v'yitnasev, v'yitadar, v'yitalei, v'yitalal, Shemei dekudesha, brichu. Ve'elal ul almei umikol b'yachata v'shechata. Tush bechata v'nechamata, da'minran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemayim, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mchomav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen.
Amen. I would invite Karen Lipshires to offer any announcements before we conclude our service. And actually, I should say, before we pause our service, since we don't think of Yom Kippur services as actually concluding until we get to Ne'ilah. Karen?
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Rabbi Betzel and Rabbi Spar, for this beautiful service tonight. It's just so powerful to be able to be together in any way we can. Services tomorrow start at 10 a.m. And I think most of you are familiar with the schedule. We also have a sukkah assembly on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock at Vivian's house. Please read the blast for more information, but we'd love volunteers to help put it together at 9 and then spend some time in the sukkah later. And there's also an apple picking event coming on September 26th. So let's try and work with the weather and be together and bring your mask and your vaccinated self to our outdoor activities so we can be together.
Thank you so much, everyone. Gemar Chatima Tova. Before we pause for the evening, I would invite you to page 124, the words of Achat Sha'alti. Achat Sha'alti Me'etz Adonai, Achat Sha'alti Ota Vakesh, Achat Sha'alti Me'etz Adonai, Achat Sha'alti Ota Avakesh. Shivti, Shivti, Me'etz Adonai. Shivti, Shivti, Kol Yemei Chayai, Nachazot, B'Noam Adonai. Uvaker lehem Adonai, achat sha'alti ota bakesh. Gamar Chatima Tova. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning.
Laila Tov.